With what's going on at the moment, it's not going to be long before some bright spark writes into a newspaper and it's going to suggest that we go back to real money instead of using new money. This spreadsheet shows you how to convert between the two. The golden rule when doing a conversion from anything of one system into the equivalent in another is you need it to reduce it to the smallest whole amount, and in this case we're going to reduce it to pennies. As you know, there are 12 pennies in a shilling and 20 shillings in a pound. This means that there are 12 times 20 pennies, and that's 240 pennies, in a real money pound. To calculate the total number of pennies, you multiply the number of pounds by 240, the number of shillings by 12, and then the number of pennies by 1, and then you add the totals. So the formula that we have here in E2 is the number of pounds times 240, the number of shillings times 12, plus the number of pence times 1, or rather just that cell value. To calculate the value in new pennies, you must then divide that amount by 2.4 and then divide this again by 100. Converting back the other way uses the same basic method, but needs two other functions which you may not be familiar with. The first step is to find out the number of new pennies there are in the value that you wish to convert, and this is very easy to do. You're just multiplying by 100. The reason, there are 100 new pennies in each pound. The second step is to convert this into real money using the same factor as before. You multiply by 2.4. This is where things may get confusing until you practice the calculation. From the number of pennies that are identified in C5, we need to know how many full pounds there are, and then how many full shillings there are, and then, if any, how many full pennies are left. You really would just have to work out the new penny value. In this instance, it's 30 pence. And there are several ways you would do this. You could look it up on a ready reckoner. If we wanted to see what 7 and 6 was, we would cut across and we would see that that was worth 37.5 penny. We don't have any half pennies anymore, so I'm discarding that from this spreadsheet. Or you'd know that if a shilling was 5 pence, 2 bob was 10 pence, so 30 pence is 3 lots of 10 pence, and therefore the amount that you're looking for is 6 shillings. So to convert 57.30, it would be 57, 6 shillings, no pennies. But what if the bit left wasn't a round number? Say you wanted to know what 57.39 was. Now I would know that 9p, because I used to use these ready reckoners all the time, that if I look down there, 9p, it's 1 and 10 pence. So I already had £57 6 shillings, so 1 and 10 pence on top of £57 6 shillings is £57 7 shillings and 10 pence. But how would you calculate this? Well, firstly, you'd need a helper cell. This is what I've got here in cell C6. In here, I've got a formula which is going to calculate how many old pennies there are left after the pounds have been divided by 240. We need this so we can work out how many shillings are left, and then we do a similar calculation to work out if there are any real pennies left. Let's look at that formula. It's equals MOD, open brackets, C5, comma, 240, close brackets. Mod is short for modulus, and you can think of it as being the remainder left after you've done a division. For example, in a sum, 12 divided by 3, the answer's 4, there are no remainders. But if you had mod 14 divided by 3, the answer would still be 4, but this time there'd be a remainder of 2. Because we're dividing 240, we need the formula to help us. If the figure in C5 was 13774, this gives us the modulus of 93.60. And you can think of the syntax of the mod function as being equals mod, open brackets, the dividend, comma, the divisor, close bracket. The dividend is the number or the cell containing that number that's going to be divided, and the divisor is the number or cell containing the number that you're dividing by. The other side of the coin, if you'll pardon the pun, is the quotient function. This returns the whole number part of the division and it leaves out the remainder part. So in the example that we've just given of 13774 pennies being divided by 240, this would return 57. And you can see the formula is very similar, equals quotient, open brackets, C5, comma, 240, which is the number of pennies, and close brackets. And this has come out at 57. To calculate the number of shillings and pence, we need to use the same helper cell in C6. If we look at the cell in F6, which would give us the number of shillings, what we have is the formula equal quotient, open brackets, C6, comma, 12, close brackets. The reason why it's 12 is because it's the number of pennies in a shilling. And similarly, if we look in G6, we can see that the formula is equal modulus, C6, comma, 12, close bracket, which gives us 10. So that you can see 57.39 works out at £57, 7 shillings and 10 pence. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to know more about how to use Microsoft Excel, please go to www.practicalexcel2010.com.